Wait, what about this part? Shh.
Welcome to TBR, a podcast where two besties read. I'm Addi.
And I'm Alex, and join us as we reread,
Review,
and reevaluate our favorite books over the years.
Shh, I'm reading.
This week on TBR, we're covering the majority of Part 6, Through the Looking Glass, chapters 25 through 29. Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of TBR. My name is Addi, and as always, I'm joined by the okay host.
Oh,
Alex.
wow. Rude. Just okay.
I feel like I use the same adjective every single time. Maybe I should have given you an entrance song.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of TBR. My name is Addi, and I'm joined by da-na-na-na-na-na-na. She's wonderful. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. She's fantastic. Da-na-na-na-na. Her name is Alex. Alex, my bestest friend.
I'm going to need that as a ringtone. Or just a song that I can play anytime I walk into a room. That's iconic and I love it. But hello, I am here.
Hi. I'm sorry. What are you drinking over there?
I have water.
Water? Oh my gosh.
So much water.
Listeners, let's us all have a round of applause.
Thank you.
Way to go, Alex. We are so proud of you in this moment that you have chosen to hydrate or dihydrate. Welcome to the train.
You know, it's the New Year's resolution. Gotta drink some water occasionally.
Do you do New Year's resolutions?
I do. Well, okay, I come up with them, and then I rarely do them. And then I'm like, you know what? That's okay. I'm just surviving in this crazy world. And then I get a little sad that I didn't do them. This year, we're gonna try to drink a little more water, trying to be realistic. What about you? Do you create them?
I do them, but I always make sure they're realistic goals. I'm never the person to say, oh, I want to lose X amount of pounds, or I want to exercise, or I want to eat healthy. Like, just do that every day.
Every year, I'm like, I want to get in shape. Do I get in shape? No. Do I even work out? No. It's so vague that it's unachievable.
I feel like listeners should know that Alex and I, even when we live together, you would think, oh, they're best friends. They can motivate each other to get shit done. That is false. I think in the entire time we lived together, we maybe went to the gym maybe 2 or 3 times.
There were so many times that we woke up and then one of us texted each other from our rooms and we're like, what if we slept in today and didn't work out? And then the other person would be like, sounds great.
Yeah. I remember one time we woke up and we went on an early morning walk, and it was very nice. Great weather. We wore our jackets. It was a nice, crisp fall morning. I don't know what the context was, but when we were walking back up the stairs, you thought I was taking a picture. And I was definitely taking a video. And so there's a solid 5 seconds of that 10-second video where you're standing there with a peace sign like, hey! And I'm just like laughing. Like, Alex, this is not a picture. This is a video.
No, gotta get those angles. I was trying to work it.
It was hysterical. It's my favorite. Okay, well, speaking of, you wanted my voicemail of me singing your new theme song, we're going to have a question. It's going to be related to the episode later, and I'll bring it up. But do you listen to audiobooks at all?
Sometimes. I have in the past.
Okay. Is it one of your New Year's goals to listen to more audiobooks?
I'd like to, especially since Spotify now has audiobooks.
Oh,
I
yeah.
started listening to Hunger Games, and then they took it off. So now I have to find a different book.
Oh, sad. Well, okay, what has been your favorite audiobook you have listened to?
So I've listened to 3 audiobooks, and I'm sure you can figure out like the time range when I was listening to them. I was still at home, and my parents also listened to them. So I was listening to Harry Potter. We listened to all of those on the audiobooks. That was like a huge family thing. We still do that for road trips. We listened to the Jim Dale version. So good. I know some people have beef with him, and they prefer Stephen Fry, but oh my god, I love all the voices he does for everything. It's ridiculous. He's one of the best voice audiobook people I've ever listened to. And then I listened to Twilight.
Oh my god.
Not good. Not good. And then also, oh god, what was the third one? I think I actually did listen to a little bit of Hunger Games during that time too. Those were like the 3 main books that we listened to on audiobook, and I thought that Harry Potter was the best. I still listen to those versions. But what about you? I know you're listening to audio version of this book as well, right?
Yeah, that's actually how I initially listened to this book, because my New Year's resolution last year was buy less books. And so I had seen the TV show, and then my fun story of my brother told me that there were books for these, and I could not wait to get his book. And he didn't even have all the ones in the series. He just had the first through the third. I ended up just listening to the audiobook versions of this, and I sped through them so fast because I just listened to them at work. They were great. I loved the narrator. There's 3 different narrators for the Lockwood and Co. books. The first book is Miranda Raisin. If I'm saying any of these names wrong, I severely apologize. The second book is Katie Lyons. And books 3 through 5 is Emily Bevan. Emily Bevan?
Emily
Bevan. Again, I
Emily
apologize. It's a different narrator than the first book. Yeah, it was pretty good. The best audiobook I have ever listened to was The Hunger Games. That was how I got my introduction into the Hunger Games series, and I love that series. It's so good. And actually, the scene that I listened to in the car with my mom, because she was playing it for my brother initially and herself, and then I was just in the car like, Mom, I don't want to listen to audiobooks.
You were just
I'm a
there.
loser. And the one scene I sat in on was when Rue died.
Oh my god.
And I literally started crying because the actual way it's written is just so tragic, and yet it's written so beautifully that it conveys that emotion. And the way that the narrator did it really did a great job at conveying that emotion and that power in that moment. And I loved it. It was so good.
Did they sing the song?
I don't remember on that one. I know in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, they don't. And it's really awkward. Thank God the movie brought Lucy Gray to life, because I was going, Lucy Gray is tone deaf.
Well, like, even me reading that book, I was like, listeners, I am not musically inclined. I have never played an instrument. I can't sing to save my life. I can't hold a tune. So whenever I read parts where they're singing songs, I try to rhyme it in my head, and it never works out right. So it's just me being like, oh, this is a song. Let me just skip past this. Like, not important. So I'm glad that, in the movie, it was a good job done.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because the narrator of this, this is my fun fact. The narrator of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is Santino Fontana.
Isn't he a singer?
Yes, he plays Hans in Frozen, and he was on Broadway in the Broadway revival of Cinderella. He played the prince. Dude, you can sing. Just give him the music. I am always curious how, when books that have songs in them get adapted, how they just come up with a song. I think it's so cool. So we've talked too much about audiobooks. Let's get into the actual physical book. So we are doing part 6, Through the Looking Glass. This is chapters 25 through 30, but we're going to be doing 25 through 29. Last episode, we looked at part 5 called A Big Night Out, and it was chapters 19 through 24. After successfully stealing the confessions of Mary Dulac from the Black Library, evading questioning by Inspector Barnes, and losing Kipps after the Fitz ball, Lockwood and Co. meet up with Flo Bones to start the exciting and more dangerous part of their evening, recovering the bone glass from Winkman's auction. Although Flo and George do their part perfectly as a distraction to create chaos and confusion from outside the event, Lockwood and Lucy still get apprehended by Winkman, until Lucy sets a phantasm free to create a diversion and a chance to escape. Whilst being pursued by Winkman and his croonies, did you write this?
Yeah, I did.
What were you on?
They put in whilst, and I was like, that's gonna trip her up. That's gonna trip her up. It's like, oh yeah, cronies.
Not cronies, croonies? I'm gonna roll my R on that. Cronies.
I knew this sentence was gonna be so funny. I wanted to hear you say it.
This in. I'm keeping this in. While Winkman and his cronies.
That's so good.
You bitch.
That was good.
Anyways, while they're being followed by Winkman and his dudes, Lockwood throws the bone glass to George, and Lockwood and Lucy make a hasty retreat to the auction roof house, where after confronting a mysterious blonde man, have no chance but to jump into the Thames to escape.
Choice. Have no choice.
I said they had no choice.
You said have no chance.
You threw me off with the... You threw me off with the wilts.
I threw you off your groove. I really try to write these in a way that makes sense to say them and isn't boring.
Those last 2 sentences were harder than the night out that they had, Alex. How dare you?
Oh, God. We love a good tongue twister.
I hate you.
Yeah. All right. They're in the river.
They're in the water. I'm sorry. There's too many TikTok.
my God, there's so many trends like that. Nobody's
Oh my God.
daughter.
I'm fine. I'm already crying. How many minutes are we in? We're like 15 minutes in.
Oh God.
Okay.
Chapter 25. We start with Lockwood and Lucy being back at Portland Row at 2:45 in the morning. So their whole adventure took about, 3 hours. They started nearish 11 o'clock at the Winkman auction because it was like 11:30. So like, damn. I mean, they did jump off of a house and then went in the river and had to get a taxi and change their clothes.
Wait, what time did they show up to the ball?
10, 9? I mean, they mingled for a bit before they went to the library, and then they had the whole chase scene. But I think the auction was at 11:30. So they're back home at 2:45, celebrating, having a little bit of breakfast, enjoying the night, and celebrating their win a little prematurely. I think they're counting the chickens before the eggs have even hatched, because George is not home yet.
Dun, dun, dun. Skull is winking at them when they return, which is hysterical because he knows what's up.
Yeah. All they know is that George made it back to the locker. So they know that he's on the way at some point, but they're assuming that it's taking him longer to get back because he was with Flo Bones on the boat and then had to go back to the locker and then make his way back. He might not have caught a cab. They were pretty excited to catch a night cab. They're really celebrating their win here before even realizing that their third member's not quite there.
Which Lucy's celebrating it more than Lockwood. At least audibly out loud, she says it more than he does. It is switched from what's in the show. In the show, of course, there's more angst because Lucy's actually really mad at Lockwood for putting them into a dangerous situation, which I think the trajectory they were going for the season makes sense. I kind of wish there was more of that at the end of this novel, but you can see minor cracks, and then it just gets bigger in the Hollow Boy, so I think I like the Hollow Boy being its own issue for right now, and not bleeding into the Whispering Skull as much, because really the issue for this novel shouldn't be the relationship as much between Lucy and Lockwood. It should be the relationship between George and Lockwood and Lucy, and where George's place is in this team and how important he really is. And that's why I'm asking, why aren't they more concerned about George at this point, that he's not home? If you told him, like, hey, put it in the locker, be back here, why wouldn't you be concerned?
I don't know, and they don't even find his note for a while. They're going through Mary Dulac's book right now, finding out that she did kill Bickerstaff. She had a half glance into the mirror. She was forced by Bickerstaff and his servant. We get a little bit of a hint. It's never really confirmed, but never really denied, that the servant's identity is Skull, which is exciting. They said that he's cunning and malignant, so that fits Skull pretty perfectly. We get a little bit more of a hint at what they thought the mirror would do. They thought it was a glimpse at heaven. It would give them all this enlightenment to see what's beyond their own world. They all knew that it was evil, and Mary Dulac confesses to killing Bickerstaff with a gun. She regrets not killing the servant, who may or may not be Skull, and then Mary Dulac and the rest of the followers end up burying Bickerstaff in the grave with the bone glass, hoping that no one will find it again. So we clear up all the confusion of all the past events, but the future events, not so much. We're still a little confused on what's going on.
I have many thoughts on this portion because there's a lot of minor lines that are brought up and places where you have to almost read between the lines. So why aren't they concerned more about George? I feel like it's almost like Lockwood is putting George up to a test, like if he can actually deliver this bone glass and succeed in his part. That's why he's at least not showing that he's concerned yet, because I think he trusts George just as much as George trusts him. Lockwood puts more physical trust in people than emotional trust. My other thought is the Skull calling Bickerstaff my lord, and my thought was Lord Voldemort. My other thought was, okay, so the book, Mary Dulac's book, George would love to read this. Oh my gosh, this is completely up his alley. Also, pages missing? Scooby-Doo feeling. There's a lot of Scooby-Doo vibes in this chapter portion, I will have you know.
There's a lot, especially at the end.
Oof, yeah, tons. So pages missing, and I guess I'm assuming that those are pages that then the big bad at the end had taken out earlier to learn how to maybe reach the other side.
Yeah, the big bad not being the big bad in this book, who has their own copy of the book. Another. Yeah. The big bad.
The big, did I say that 5 times? The big bad.
The great bad,
big bad.
Oh, you don't want to hear
You gotta
me
rap, Alex?
Rap? You don't want to hear me rap.
Oh yeah, you know what I want to hear you rap? I want to hear you rap the opening description of the past 2 chapters. Can you just do those last 2 sentences? Whilst?
Whilst?
The croonies? Okay, my other thought is that In Mary Dulac's writings, she writes about a similar situation to what George is dealing with right now, in how he's transfixed by the mirror. Yes, he is transfixed by the mirror, but he's also transfixed with this mirror version of himself in Joplin, of the person that he can become. He could become someone that just looks deeper into his research. It really highlights that pull that Joplin has on him. The show did a great job at showing how George is essentially being groomed in a way by Joplin to this lifestyle of stealing sources for the sole purpose of researching them to learn more about the problem and what's really going on. Just as Bickerstaff was trying to persuade his patients to follow him and want to see the other side, or basically see wisdom and whatnot. So it's not just the pull of like wanting to see the other side, it's like it's wanting to see another way of life that George could have and wanting to turn away from it. And then I also went, boy, protecting them from spirits? Skull? In all caps.
Yes, that answers one question I had last episode or 2 episodes ago. I was so confused because this whole formation of the bone glass Bickerstaff, that was all pre-problem. This was way more than 50 years ago. So I was wondering how, if kids and people didn't know about visitors, it wasn't as prevalent, how did Bickerstaff get sources that had visitors attached to even make the bone glass? This answers the question. It was all from Skull.
And that's why I say again, and I'm serious, we joke all the time, we want book 6, we want Skull's story. I genuinely do. I'm interested in the chain of events of how Bickerstaff got those papers, like how he learned this knowledge with Skull. I don't even need to know like how Skull died or what happened. I just want to know like where that came from, and then how the big bad, the 5B bad of the whole series, how they ended up finding that research and how much they used.
I have another question. Like, I've always been so intrigued by the whole type 1 versus type 2 versus type 3. Them coming up anyway, because you can have sources that pop out of nowhere based on violent deaths or unfinished business or having a purpose, basically. But what differentiates one person from being a type 1, type 2, or type 3? And in the case of Skull, who is one of the only type 3s we know, we may or may not meet another type 3 later in other books, spoiler alert, he obviously has talent. He had talent. So does that lend himself to being a type 3? For example, if Lucy died a horrific death and had unfinished business, would her talent lend her towards being a type 3 and being able to converse with other people with talent? Or how does that influence anything? I'm so intrigued by that.
Well, and the other thing is, like, type 3s are so rare. The show made it seem that, like, the more violent the death, the worse the ghost, basically. But I don't know if that's necessarily true because, I mean, you hear about how in the show, not in the book, and I think they allude to what happens in these parts, but how Bickerstaff cut their bones out as they were alive. Honestly, that's a pretty gruesome way to go, that like you would think that would be a type 3. And like these ghosts are only type 2s. I think it's probably a combination of unfinished business and the gruesome death, and probably a third part that we're not thinking of.
I just wish it was more spelled out, but they don't even know what the problem entails. They don't know how it started. They don't know the details, so it makes sense that all of this information is purposely vague.
And again, I think it's also props to Jonathan Stroud for writing, again, such a good world that has a lot to knack on.
Yeah, lots of unfinished questions.
I had another thought. It is just interesting that Bickerstaff also uses others, just like adults are using children to solve their own problems and to get what they want.
Yeah, we love a good cult leader that manipulates and takes advantage of the people that are looking up to him. Cool. Love that. Lockwood even points out how similar George and Joplin are. We mentioned last episode they even start to have physical similarities with cleaning their glasses the same way. Like you just said, we get the similarities mentally now, where Joplin is basically grooming George, and George is so similar in his research and what he questions and what he wants to learn as Joplin. So they're similar both in a mental and physical aspect, which is now being pointed out by Lockwood. Also, Lockwood finally points out that Joplin is the likely suspect who stole the original stand from the coffin. So that's another little clue of Joplin's ill intentions.
Yeah, there's a whole question in these chapters. When exactly was Joplin affected by this bone glass? Like we said, he's a shady person beforehand, but how mesmerized was he beforehand?
Yeah, I would love to know the influence that Bickerstaff has on him, especially in chapter 28, where it's like you can see the ghost moving in the background and that affects Joplin outside of the chains. We do find Lucy finds this doodle on the table table that says, gone to see a friend about a mirror, back soon, G. And basically you can just see the whole scene. It's like time stops. Lockwood and Lucy stare at each other, kind of the blood draining from both of their faces, being like, oh fuck, George isn't late. He already came back here and is gone again. He took the mirror with Joplin, which is confirmed by Skull, who's just been waiting for them to figure it out, laughing.
He's been winking. It's his little revenge on George for cooking him in the oven and taking him in the bath.
He's so smug about it.
How the show does it is pretty good. But again, I think it works for the trajectory that they were taking, that Lucy and Lockwood were so transfixed on one another that they weren't noticing George. But I liked the idea that George has been drawing those spirals.
Oh, yeah. Where
the whole time.
He's just being hypnotized the entire time.
And they haven't noticed. And in real life, if we're comparing this to our lives, but when something is wrong with someone and you don't notice, you don't pick up on the little hints every so often. Also for Lockwood, how you don't pick up on the little things he drops every so often. But that's for another time.
Yeah.
I do like the left a little note that they don't notice that either. But honestly, that's just such a dumb little find of like, oh, yeah, I did find this note on the table. But also, how would you find a random... I'm very curious about this thinking cloth. I love the thinking cloth, but it's got to be impossible to find stuff on there at some point. When do they replace it?
Oh, absolutely. I guess when it's full, but when it's so crammed full of doodles, you're not going to notice. Like, my kitchen's pretty messy. If someone put a little note in my kitchen, I probably wouldn't notice for days. Let's be real. So totally understandable that they missed this one note.
Yeah, Skull has seen all this, though, about George, and he saw that George wrote the note and that he's gone with Joplin, and Lucy calls him out, and I just freaking love it.
I do like at this point, Skull is gloating. He's so excited that he thinks that George and Joplin now are going to go look in the glass and George is going to die. And I like that Lucy threatens him. They threaten him with the furnace and he doesn't seem that worried. He's like, I'm very rare. I'm a type 3 ghost. You're not going to do that. Maybe that's what I want after all and you're just playing into my hand. And there's this line about how Lucy sometimes hates the connection that she has with Skull, but the one advantage that she does have with this connection is that she's able to understand the desires and dreams of Skull. So she knows his driving force and she calls him out on it. She says, you shared Bickerstaff's dreams. You helped him build the bone glass. You wanted to see it used. And why? Because you wanted to look past death and see what lies beyond because you were afraid. You wanted to be sure that something happened after it, that you wouldn't be alone. You're desperate for connection. And that's why you're still interacting with us. So yeah.
I think it's a good connection because we just figured out that he was a kid.
Yeah.
Like he's a kid servant. So again, if, take away that he's a ghost, take away that Lockwood and Lucy are fighting ghosts. They're kids. And they all don't want to be alone. They're all in a terrible situation. Skull has obviously been in a terrible situation. Probably a very toxic one.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And he wants to make sure that he's not he doesn't know what's next. That's a great fear of everyone, even in our day. And it's kind of like, oh, Skull just wants friends. What a mood.
Yeah. So you have this person who is isolated and so reliant on Lucy's talent to hear him, so reliant to the outside, otherworldly connections that he has. She just says, I'm not going to burn you in the fire. What I'll do is I'm going to shut your spout so no one can hear you talk, and I'm going to bury you and no one's going to find you again. So he would be forced to be alone. And at that point, Skull becomes a little more talkative and offers to help a little bit. So he basically confirms Skull left. He got here. He was home almost an hour before you guys. He had the mirror. He hadn't been long before Joplin showed up. And at that point, there was a short discussion. They both went off together. They took the mirror. And at the last minute, George came back in. He looked unsure of what he was doing and left you that note. So that little note that took him a long time to find, that was basically George's last-ditch effort to be like, hey, something's not right. It's like he was breaking through the influence of Bickerstaff and Joplin and just left him a little note, hoping that they would find it.
I have a cute little pink moment. It's just like one line. I don't know why. I find this so cute, but I just like that after all that, after she threatens Skull, like a good boy that Lockwood is, he squeezes her arm and is like, good job, Luce. Oh, it's so cute.
Good job threatening him.
Good job, sweetheart. It's just so cute, but I like the squeeze the arm. It's just, oh.
Yeah, a little physical reminder that they're both there.
Smooth, Lockwood. Smooth.
Yeah. The most heartbreaking line, I think, is we noticed but we didn't pay attention in reference to George. Because they noticed that he seemed to be affected. They noticed that he was still very much intrigued by the mystery of the bone glass, probably sharing a little too much with Joplin, but they didn't know what the ramifications of that was. They didn't know how influenced he was being by both Joplin and Bickerstaff until it was too late, which is just heartbreaking.
And I think that's something that the TV show, while it did a great job at what it was going for, it kind of missed. And that's the point of the book, is that in the TV show, they just didn't notice anything that was wrong with him. Yeah, they got a little mad at him after initially they had done the Bickerstaff case, but they just didn't say anything after that. They were just ignoring it. Whereas in this one, as we've said in previous episodes, Lockwood keeps getting mad at George, and even Lucy is trying to help George, but it's really hard when he's not doing a good job at even like trying to be better. But it's the thing of like, yeah, they're noticing something's wrong, but you're not doing anything. And again, it's kind of in our world of mental health, when you are seeing that something's wrong with someone, yeah, you can be like, oh, I'm there for you, I'm there for you, but actually like taking the next step to see, like you said, the ramifications and how you literally can help them and actively get them to the place that they need to be, that's the difference than just words and prayers, you know?
Yeah. We get a little more Scooby-Doo clue reveals. We figure out the gray stuff in Joplin's hair isn't dandruff, like everyone had thought. It's grave dust, which is disgusting.
I still believe that his hair is 50% dandruff, 50% dust.
I think there's a little dandruff in there.
Sue me.
It's gotta be, yeah. And then we find out there's the grand reveal. We know that Joplin is a little nefarious. He's doing things he shouldn't be. He's this grand architect figuring all this stuff out. It's revealed that the knife that was used to kill Carver was likely found by Joplin, who was working in the same cemetery case. One dagger was given to Deepak and put in the museum, and one dagger he likely kept for himself, being the scholar that he is, and he's been using that to murder people. So not only is George in danger with the bone glass and Bickerstaff's ghost, he now has Joplin, who's also been influenced by Bickerstaff to contend with, who's been shown to kill people in order to get what he wants.
Yeah, like you said, everything falls into place. I had two interesting thoughts. One, they mentioned Lockwood's hollow eyes.
Oh, I wrote that out there. Yes.
I know. Right after he is saying that George is obsessed with relics and old stuff, that's just how he is, we couldn't have known. And then he goes hollow and goes, you really think he's affected by the ghost? I think there's a little bit of trauma in his eyes there from what has happened in his past. I've seen some arguments that the hollow boy Lockwood, his trauma just comes out of nowhere. I feel like it shows up in the past two books. It's just you almost have to really find the tiny lines and read between the lines in these parts.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of little clues there.
The other thought I had is Skull is kind of like the author.
Oh.
He's like that third person perspective, because in the first book, he's just watching the whole time. This time, he's more of an actively engaging author. It's just my thought. But it cracks me up because we're like, I don't really want to see Bickerstaff's ghost again. Kind of scared. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to see the bone glass. And it's the same thing of Skull being like, yeah, George is going to be dead. And then they're like, well, you're coming along. And he's like, wait, what? Don't bring me into this. I don't want to go. It's like the author being like, well, you're coming along with me. Or he writes his characters, so, well, they're gonna have to go there, and the author's like, oh, I don't really want to go to this place, but I guess here we go, you know?
Yeah, he's being dragged into it more as an active participant.
So instead of being a passive, almost author or third person outside source, now he is actively in the story. Okay, now that we've talked long enough, chapter 26.
That leads us to chapter 26.
And let me just say, what a great introduction to Kensal Green Cemetery.
Yeah.
Just great descriptions, great writing, chef's kiss.
I noted that they were talking about the final hour of darkness and how light would soon emerge and that the birds aren't singing yet. I would think that the final hour of darkness is exciting. It'd be like the last hour of work, because once light hits, visitors aren't as strong. They're not as strong in the sunlight. Darkness is really where they come out and are the most powerful. But in this way that it's written, it seems so ominous, like we only have an hour to save George. It's really foreboding.
It's a time crunch, because most movies, it's like, oh, before sundown, you know, you have to save someone before sundown. At least a lot of like movies where it's like a time crunch to save the damsel in distress or save the friend. It's like, you have until sundown. And now it's the opposite. You have until sunrise. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
We need to log every time the skull says, let me out, because it happens like 5 times in this chapter.
Oh, he does. He's so funny.
His commentary is great. He's just so funny.
Again, we see Detective Lockwood. He's touching the heaters. He notes that it's warm, so people have been there tonight, but not actively for a long while. We notice that Bickerstaff's body is gone, which is freaky, and that the door down to the catacombs is locked from the inside.
But then Lucy notices that there's a catafalque, and that Saunders says it's still working.
Yeah, our mystery mouse Gatool from a couple episodes ago, where it was just one line line. Oh, it still works.
Jinkies.
Jinkies. We're able to go down our one entrance, but they don't know how or where the lever is. So it's a lot of looking around. And I notice every time Skull insults them in these 2 chapters, he uses a lot of animal references. He says there's dim as dormice. It's like teaching cats to read, blind as bats. I want some more modern insults from him.
Well, he has been sitting in a house probably for many years and has gone on other adventures that haven't been as exciting as the Lockwood and Co. crew, because clearly he hasn't spoken up until now that we know of.
Yeah, that's true.
I do like that Lucy is fighting the Skull's arguments as Lockwood is just fighting the whole time thing and just frustrated with everything.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So they're basically going through everything of what happened and how Joplin is behind it all. And Skull this whole time is, like you said, he's just reminding me of an annoying kid with his mom at an amusement park. Like, let me go, Mom. Let me out. I want to go.
Oh, I love the Lucy, I order you, smash my glass prison and set me free. Set me free. It's like in the background, they're freaking out, and Skull is just adding this joyful commentary. He's really that annoying. Yeah, like you said, he's an annoying 5-year-old just trying to get his mom's attention.
And then, out of nowhere, dun dun dun, Kipps' team is here, but Kipps is not there.
Yeah.
So Bobby Vernon, Kat Godwin, and Ned Shaw are all there, and they're looking for Kipps. And so they run into Lucy and Lockwood and are like, wait, where's Kipps? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, we can't find Kipps.
Yeah. Kipps is missing.
We don't know where he is. We have no idea. And they're like, well, George is missing, so let's team up. And Lockwood is being the voice of reason. And again, I ask, why did they give this personality trait to Lucy in the show?
I have no idea.
Because it's one of the things I really liked about Lockwood's character in the book is that he is always the one that, for the most part, in those moments where you need a leader, he has level head, his ego doesn't get in the way, and he's like, we gotta work together. I'm gonna be kind, respectful. We're gonna get through this. I may have a couple like side insults, but I'm gonna be that guy. Whereas in the show, they kind of gave that part to Lucy, which I don't have a huge issue with. It's just more of like you're taking part of Lockwood's character from the book and you're swapping the characters.
Yeah, they're kind of swapping as to see fit. You know what line I am missing from the TV show? Is when they walk up to the cemetery, to the chapel, and Lockwood says, let's kick in this door like we know what we're doing. I wish that was in the book.
Like we're cool and we know what we're doing.
I miss that line.
That line is so good because it's so
relatable.
I think of all the lines of the TV show, that one is relatable, but it also fits the comedy in the book, and I love it.
But as everyone is teaming up and deciding to work together to find both Kipps and George and Joplin, we get another surprise appearance from a couple relic men, of course, because we have to make this even more of a time crunch and even more scary than it is. Get all of these relic men that are just going to fight them because obviously someone sent them from Winkwin's auction. They know that they have the bone glass.
How did they know that they are here? Like, if they showed up at Portland Row, okay, that makes sense.
We followed them.
But how did they know they're here?
From the Deep Rock connection. Yeah, I don't know how long they watched them because Skull said they sat there for 40 minutes eating their breakfast.
Why did they attack them when they were at Portland Row? How long were they at home? Do you think they sit across the street with popcorn?
Oh, of course. They're just watching through the window.
Just like eating it. They're like, ooh, Lucy, not that shirt.
They're like, oh, now it gets interesting. We're going to go on a little field trip to the cemetery where it'll be even more scary.
They put some butter in it, get some sweet popcorn. And they're like, wait, we're going to do a 30-minute intermission now. Everyone go to the bathroom.
Get your snacks.
Oh, look, a blood trail. So, you know, they have to fight off these relic men, but someone has to go down and save George and find Kipps if he's down there. I like that in the book, Lockwood just automatically trusts Lucy to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
In the show, it's really cute with the angst that
yeah, I highlighted it pink.
But I like in the book where he's just like, you can do it, go. Like, he inherently trusts her, and I love it. I love when a man takes a moment, though, to is like, are you sure I can go in your place? But I do like that. I'd like it more when he's like, I believe in you. Oh.
My one question is, okay, Kat Godwin, Ned Shaw, yeah, great swordsman. Lockwood, incredible. Lucy, she's okay. Bobby Vernon, why are we not sending him with Lucy? He knows how to get the catafalque working. He's small. He's not going to put up much of a fight, and it's shown later he doesn't. He gets knocked out almost immediately and doesn't actually help. So why was he not sent? I know for like the purpose of the book, oh, it's Lucy and Skull. It's her personal journey. She saves the day. But come on, man. Send Bobby with her.
Screw the personal journey. I want Bobby Vernon down there. But it's when Lucy's the distraction at Winkman's. Like, why? I feel like it should have been switched. But make it make sense, Stroud. We love you, but make it make sense.
We do get this lovely writing from Stroud when Lucy is going down in the catafalque and she's in this spotlight and she's terrified.
Down, down. Oh, God. I have so many song lyrics written into my notes, Alex. I had another one. Maybe it'll come up. It'll come up again.
But she's going down in this limelight and is more worried because in the light, her senses aren't as strong. So she feels very exposed. And it was just, it was very good. And then she gets down there. She takes a step to darkness and kind of lets her senses adjust, lets her eyesight adjust. And then hears all of these unknown sounds, rustling, sighing, faint peals of laughter, sobs, whispering, snatches, and the clicking of a wet tongue, which is disgusting. But I love that it says that she's in the realm of the dead, which just makes me think of in Moana when he's like, welcome to the realm of monsters. All I could think of.
Okay, we have to side quest really quick. Best villain song, go.
Ooh, poor unfortunate souls. I almost said skulls. Poor unfortunate souls.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
Oh, also Hellfire is so good. Ooh, if we're talking like religious trauma.
Okay, we have to side note. I was gonna say that one's on my list because I hate the movie The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
It's really sad.
Because that character is I literally almost am nauseous from it.
It's because he wants to bang Esmeralda.
Yeah, disgusting. But that song is written whoa. The music in that movie is great.
Friends from the Other Side is also really good.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like Mother Knows Best from Tangled, but the reprise where it's minor and it's
that is a good one.
Jabbing it. That song is sung amazingly. It's so good.
Pretty good.
If you were to have your villain era song, what would be blasting?
Like a Disney villain song or just any villain song?
Any song. What's your villain song?
Ooh, I don't know. I like a lot of sad songs. I don't have a lot of angsty ones that come to mind. What about you?
Yeah, my villain song would be either Ready For It by Taylor Swift or the other one, Look What You Made Me Do, but specifically the Era's version.
It's good.
The Don't Blame Me into Look What You Made Me Do. Oh, impeccable. Anyways, what would Skull's villain song be? Do you think it'd be I think Poor Unfortunate Skulls should be his.
I could see it. That'd be so perfect.
Poor Unfortunate Skulls. I'm in pain. Let me out. Honestly, okay. Lockwood & Co. musical. It's happening.
Yeah.
We're getting ideas.
We can do it. We do get a little more banter with Skull, and Lucy threatens to break him up behind a wall, which I'm wondering if that's an Edgar Allan Poe Cask of Amontillado reference.
I don't even know those words.
It's like the story. I had to look it up because I thought it was Shakespeare at first, and it's not. It's Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay, go.
Basically, the whole thing is basically this person brings someone down to a wine cellar and the person thinks that they're going to get wine. They're drunk. They're very excited. And then all of a sudden they get chained to the wall and the main character bricks them up and then they die.
Oh my gosh!
Bricked behind a wall. So I was just wondering if that was a reference to that.
Unrelated, but related. I was watching this TikTok the other day, and it was about an episode of Thomas the Tank Engine, where one of the trains gets bricked into the tunnel because he doesn't want to come out because he's scared. The episode ends with him being bricked in.
So they kill him?
Basically. Oh my god.
So dark.
It's all connected, Alex. It's all connected.
But we also get this really sad line about Lucy being scared. Her emotions are raw, and she's vulnerable and alone. And she's thinking of Lockwood upstairs fighting for his life, George, and how he was looking at the mirror and the yearning and how he's being influenced. And there's just this one line I thought about how easily everything I cared about could be destroyed. Ugh, my heart.
And I like the part after that where she's talking about, I compressed those emotions, I boxed them in, stored them in a cubbyhole in the attic of my mind. Ooh. Time to open that box later. Right now I had to stay alert and stay alive. Just chef's kiss writing.
It's good.
And it's a hint at how Lockwood lives.
Yeah, huge change from how we saw her deal with her angry emotions and scared emotions with Annabelle Ward's case, where Lockwood had to stop and be like, get a hold of your emotions. This influences ghosts. And here she is stopping and compressing your emotions herself and hiding them for later. So, character growth for Lucy. Wow.
Also, this is Lucy and Skull's first adventure together.
Dream team. I love it. I love all the banter.
I know. It's also Lucy's first solo mission, and honestly, she's rocking it. We're getting all her internal dialogue of how she's thinking through every situation. And I think at one point she's like, well, what would Lockwood do? And I'm like, Lucy, no. What would you do? What would
Lucy
you do? I want to see you on the cat poster, Lucy.
You know what? WWLD for What Would Lockwood Do also stands for WWLD. What would Lucy do?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Are you going to make posters?
Maybe. Keep calm and carry on. Except there's a big keep calm and carry a rapier.
There's an actual poster you can buy?
No, I hope so. That'd be incredible.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can someone make that? That's great. Keep calm and keep your rapier on. Oh, you have to see the sweatshirt I got for Christmas. Hold on.
Ooh. Is it another True Lawns edition?
It's not. It is a pun shirt, but it's for my knitting.
Calm and carry yarn. Oh my god.
And the actual like pocket it doesn't open on the side, so you can put your yarn in the front.
Oh my god. Or a small puppy.
Isn't that hilarious?
Wow. I wish I was into knitting.
You can join. It's my one job in Lockwood & Co. Yeah, there's a lot of descriptions down here. There's like a dead lily, I think it is, or a dead flower somewhere. Very melancholy.
Yeah, perpetual bloom. I do like that she just mentions one visitor and she's like, I hope he doesn't turn around. He's creepy. And then there's tapping coming from a very small lead coffin. Ugh.
We also see wisps. I think we've heard of wisps, but we haven't seen them before, which is kind of interesting. Little spirits that are like floating around.
Lucy, of course, being her clumsy self, trips on a brick, makes a lot of noise, and Skull says, "Oh, it's fine, no one heard," and then heartbeat, 2 beats. Or did they? He's being so helpful.
Skull kills me. Oh, now we get to the really sad part. George. The amount of times I cry for George in these novels is just insane.
So
oh my
much.
God. Okay, chapter 27.
We get our first glimpse of the bone glass in its full glory. It's wrapped with chains. It's in its special 3-legged stand, kind of set up the way it was meant to be, with a handkerchief on top that's starting to shift with invisible currents by the air. It was very much giving the veil in the Department of Mysteries from Harry Potter, where it's like moving and almost sentient. Really gives that window vibe because, air currents going both ways, not just a mirror. It's alive and moving. Super creepy, ready to be used. We see the 7 bodies, the 7 ghosts that are comprised of the mirror huddling around it. Their description is just so heartbreakingly sad. It's hard to see them. They're very drab, no defining features. They're sad and they're angry. They want their bones back. And that just makes me wonder, how sentient are these bones? Because the ghosts in them were collected from our graveyard from the help of the servant and used by Bickerstaff to make this mirror. But if they were sentient, it's likely that their purpose wasn't asking for their bones back until they were forged into the mirror. So I think it's just so weird that they're all now focused, their new agenda, their new purpose is asking for their bones back. Do they know that they're being used?
Well, I wonder if it's just subconsciously their body when it got cut out, the blood, other bones in the body, heart, everything was give me back my bone. I need my bone to live. If in a way it's not the person's conscious side of remembering that someone had taken their bones, but the subconscious of their inside speaking, which is probably why it's not as strong as just one human. Yeah. It's not one person has a fervent purpose as much as Annabelle Ward, for example. I think it's somehow a subconscious, the whole body knows something's missing. And I think it's how I read it initially, because you hear that "give us back our bones" from the beginning when they first open it. And I think when you read it, you're like, give us back our bones. Like you said, it's sad now. So when you read the next part of "our bones, give us back our bones," it's they plead it. You almost read it as a sad, "our bones, please give us back our bones."
Yeah, they're desperate for it. It's really sad. It really gives you sympathy, especially Lucy, who's hearing this. I'm sure everyone else can kind of get that influence, that impression that they want their bones back and that the bone glass is inherently wrong in the way that it was forged. But Lucy's hearing it firsthand, so she really gets that sympathy. But you know who I have sympathy for? George, who's sitting facing the mirror. He's tied up. He's beat up. He's knocked out. Poor George has been through the ringer. And then there's Kipps, who's just annoyed and is also beat up and tied.
I like how she says, mostly he looked deeply annoying.
Joplin is MIA. He's not there in the moment. But you know who is there? Edward Bickerstaff, who is contained in some chains He's being all creepy in his little robe like a Dementor, just hanging out, waiting to strike. He's hanging out behind Kipps. And poor Skull really just wants his attention. I just thought this line was so funny. Where he's like, Lucy, take me to him. Lucy, it's me, it's Skull. Master, like, pay attention to me. And he's like, well, nobody once was. Kind of like defensive to Lucy.
Oh my gosh. Hello!
He's trying so hard. I don't know why it's so funny to
He
me.
really doesn't care about you, Skull. He is like the annoying little kid. Mom, look at me. Look at me. I'm in a jar. I'm like jam. Wipe me on some bread.
Oh my god.
Poor unfortunate Skulls.
So good. So good.
I really want Skull to have his own villain song. I really do.
I want it.
But don't even want anything else to be a musical. Like, Skull just has his own song and that's it.
Yeah.
Lucy's like, are you freaking kidding me? George is like, please, just someone take me out. And Lockwood's there, like, somewhat
Jamming.
tapping his foot,
Yeah.
you know, like, man, this is a jam.
He's into it.
He's basically signing the Broadway check, like, West End, let's go. Anyways, I had a note. Lucy is trying to basically figure out what happened before they came down, and I like that we get to see the badass George moment when he confronted Kipps and took him down. I'm glad we got to see that in the show. In the book, we didn't get to see him take down Joplin, or try to take down Joplin.
Oh god. Well, even that, it's
Oh god, it is the
that
Battle of Velma's.
you hear Kip saying, like, yeah, he's like, no, it's like two schoolgirls fighting over a scented pencil. Like, I'm surprised there's no hair pulling. It's like two cats, like, two kittens pawing at each other. Basically, they're knocking their glasses off and crawling on the ground in the Velma true fashion, being like, my glasses.
I do like that Lucy's like, you didn't want to help him? And Kip's like, honestly, I didn't even know what to do. Like,
Well,
how
he's
do I
like,
fight?
to my ultimate regret, I did. And that's why I'm in this situation. Character growth from Kipps there, actually stepping in. I would just be watching, like, let me know when you figure out who won, and then I'll step in.
Yep.
A lot of banter between Lucy and Kipps as well when she's trying to get him out, and he's like, oh, me, I'm fine. I'm just tied up by a madman. Just peachy. They're both being sarcastic. Oh, yes,
I
yes,
have
yes.
another thought for you.
Oh, who?
You know how many kids are here?
3, 4?
Think also upstairs.
Wait. Okay, I was including Skull in there.
We got Lockwood, Bobby, Ned, Kat, Lucy,
oh, it's our 7
Kipps, and
agents
George.
again. How cute.
Just saying.
Sipping the tea, side eye. We'll include that later.
Oh.
Skull gives a warning a little bit too late that Joplin's there. He holds Lucy at knife point and ties her up next to Kipps, who, of course, has a quip of, this is the efficiency I'd expect from Lockwood & Co. Now we're all tied up. Like,
It is kind of
even when they're in a dire situation, this humor is top notch.
I don't like Kipps yet. We're not there.
It's like, I'm expecting Lockwood to come in and impale himself on the sword next. Like, it's so good. So good.
They have a description of Joplin where they say he's glazy-eyed. So if you're mesmerized, it must be one step below Ghostlock, I think.
Yeah, I'm so confused. Like, this chapter, there are so many mentions of how his pupils are wide, his eyes are dark and sunken, he's staring intently, he's listening with his head cocked. Sometimes Bickerstaff makes a severe motion in the background, a severe movement, and then Joplin's like, yes, I heard you, yes, I'm working on it. Almost like he's in pain and being influenced directly in a physical manner as well as a mental manner, because he can hear Bickerstaff and is being influenced in that way. But Bickerstaff is in chains. How is he influencing Joplin? How strong is this ghost? It confuses me, and I kind of have to be like,
yeah,
I saw the mirror, and that's, I'm sure.
Well, and it goes back to my theory of the first book, that in some way, shape, or form, Annabelle Ward had
an unconscious,
possessed. An unconscious, pull on Lucy, where she really felt her emotions deeply and could very much sense what Annabelle Ward was going through. I think that's the baseline, that's the bare minimum, and then it goes up to what Joplin is experiencing. And then I think it then goes further, because I think it's also based on what kind of ghost is basically possessing you, but it goes into the third one of what we'll see in book 3, 4, and 5, of what happens with that sort of possession, where you're a little more cognizant that it's happening.
I am intrigued to see if they secured Bickerstaff's ghost and sealed the source, how that influence would have died or been cut off from Joplin. I would like to see exactly how affected he was, was, or if at that point he was too far gone. Like from a legal standpoint, if Deepak came in right now, sealed the source, how liable would Joplin be for his actions? Because he's been emotionally manipulated. How much can you blame on the ghost, and how much can be blamed on what you allowed?
I still think he'd be pretty liable.
That's true, because he's been hanging out with Bickerstaff's ghost for a long time, for at least like a week now.
But again, I think it goes back to the question of when was he mesmerized?
Yeah, you can plead insanity. Yeah.
I like that question, though. At least American society, there's some sort of, you can plead insanity and basically get free of a case, which sometimes is not great.
Yeah. It's like you're still held liable, but it's not like you knowingly.
You were not in your right mind.
Right, exactly. So I'm sure that comes into play in this world as well. I don't know what their justice system is or
it must.
how that works, but.
Oh, I want to make a note, and this is why I want to. Side note, audiobook narrators, you're fantastic. Great job. The one for this novel does a really great job, and I'll tell you why. Because in the audiobook, Penelope's voice sounds light and airy.
Gosh.
Just like this. Every time she's done Joplin, it's been very much like, oh, we're going to talk like this, and blah, 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 blah. And now, the audiobook narrator does it in almost a light and airy voice, like they do for Penelope.
Interesting.
Let's just think about that for a second. Just a massive thank you to any voice actors out there in the world, or specifically narrators for audiobooks. They convey so much emotion through just how they say the words. And it's one thing to write it, but it's another thing to hear it, and also it's another thing to see it. I think that one step of just hearing it does so much. So that's my side note, but thank you.
Yeah. Joplin is setting up, well, we know that Joplin's a bad guy, obviously, if that wasn't obvious by now. He's put George in the position where he wants to conduct the experiment. He's trying to fulfill Bickerstaff's wishes. His phantom's being influenced. George is in the hot seat. He's going to use George to look into the mirror and record what he sees. George does note he felt this desire when he got the mirror after leaving Flo. He had to look in it again. He knew it was wrong. He wanted to wait, but it was unimportant to wait. Then Joplin came. He said that they needed to look at it together. As soon as he saw the empty coffin, basically he knew, like, oh shit, Joplin's the one who's been behind all of this. He knows that what he was doing is wrong, and that's when he tried to fight Joplin. But unfortunately, it was too late. So he kind of owns up to being influenced by Bickerstaff and being drawn to the bone glass. Then we get a little more Scooby-Doo clue with Joplin. He admits to stealing the other copy of Mary Dulack's confessions. He stole it from the library in the first place. He knows exactly what's up. He was able to translate Bickerstaff's notes because he's fluent. Of course, he's fluent in medieval Italian.
Because of course he is.
Yeah. But yeah, he sets up George to look into the mirror. Basically says if George doesn't look into the mirror, he's going to kill Kipps and Lucy. I feel like a lot of the stuff is very repetitive.
It is very repetitive. It goes around in circles, which I think is kind of funny because Bickerstaff's stuck in a death loop.
Oh!
And now Joplin's going in circles.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. But George just, he gets really sad. I have a light blue moment, which means really, really sad. Oh my god, I might tear up. Lucy's like, no, don't look at it. And it's kind of reverse of the show where Lucy's in the situation George is in, and George is like, no, Lucy, don't look at it. But now it's in the book, and George has his moment, and he says, it's all right, Luce. He said, he smiled sadly. All this mess is my own fault. And after that, it's what I've always wanted, isn't it? To uncover mysteries, to do something no one else has ever done. No, George.
And even Kipps tries to stop him.
I know! And I was like, thank God! Okay, Kipps, I'm starting to like you. He's like, I know I was weak, and what I did was wrong, and I'm sorry. Tell Lockwood, okay? And it's just like, oh my gosh, no! And then he looks, and it looks like he dies.
Yeah, he says he sees beautiful things. I know he's not really dead because I did read the next chapter, and I've read this book before, and I've seen the TV show.
That is a spoiler, Alex.
I know.
How dare you? How dare you spoil this for me?
Sad. The fierce joy that spread across his face remained, but all the intelligent, all the sparky life, the stubbornness began to slip away. And that's what Lucy sees. Oh, she thinks that he's dead. And then, of course, Joplin, he's so unimpressed with all this heartbreaking dialogue that's going on between him. He's like, can we get on with it? And then George dies, and he's like, well, that was disappointing.
Yeah.
We move on to chapter 28.
And hold me back, Alex. Hold me back. I'm coming at Joplin.
Oh, my God.
What an asshole.
We get all the stages of grief from Lucy. She's got
Literally.
bargaining. She's got a little denial. He's like, he always looks like that in the morning. And Kipps is like, oh, he's gone, Carlisle. It's okay.
And then she says she thought of Jack Carver lying on a rug and of the stupid emptiness of death. Oh my God.
And then basically, Lucy just like everything drains out of her and she is ready for a fight. She is pissed
Oh my gosh.
off.
I don't know why in my head I can visually see it like Emma Swan from Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Season 1. Henry basically on his deathbed. It's that moment when she's really sad and then all of a sudden she just looks up at the camera and you can tell it is a woman with fury and you are terrified. Yes!
She's ready for a fight. Joplin's moving towards her. Kipps basically says, keep away from her. Oh, love Kipps. Every new sentence he utters just makes me grow a little fonder of him.
He gets better from here. And Skull's like, hey ho, don't bring me into this.
Yeah. Lucy's like, I can listen to type 3s. You don't want to do this. I can tell you more than you'll ever know. Joplin doesn't give a shit. He wants this experiment to be finished. He wants to fulfill Bickerstaff's wishes. It's like, now it's your turn. Go sit in the chair. Move the body out of the way. It's fine. And just as she's about to look into it,
George has his Harry Potter moment from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. All I can picture is that scene where Harry like leaps out of Hagrid's arms and everyone's like, oh shit! And it's like, oh, well, we done knew.
all I could think of is that scene from Dexter where the cop's like, surprise, motherfucker.
I have not seen Dexter, but that sounds great.
George really has this theater kid moment, and then he immediately starts wrestling with Joplin. And then while mid-fight is able to mid-wink at Lucy and is like, well, I'm kind of busy, but I'll explain it all later.
Typical George.
And of course, at that moment, there's something that moves the chains, and Bickerstaff wants to join the fray, and Lucy has the coolest visual scene where she is too far from her rapier, runs, dives, grabs the chains, and whoops it at Bickerstaff.
She is a boss.
She's a fucking badass.
She has a speech in here that's so good.
Yeah, I have this all highlighted yellow. It is so good.
Yes.
The whole thing about, I know that Bickerstaff wants me to look. Same old message. He has no other. This is another Scooby-Doo moment where his cowl falls off and she's like, he's just a man's face, not this big scary thing. Just a stupid, obsessive man who, to make himself feel important, liked to dress in eerie robes. He wants to know answers to things he shouldn't know, but was too scared to look himself at these things. Who used others both in life and now in death. Was his voice hypnotic? Perhaps to some, but not to me. I've had enough.
Preach.
So good.
And it's good because there's so many like bigger ramifications of that statement and how adults treat kids in this world. Waiting for Lucy to come to that discovery in the next few books. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. She was actively deciding not to be his tool. I am not going to be influenced by him. I'm switching from defensive to attack mode. Snaps to Lucy, go off, kill him.
And it's sad when you know what happens in the next book that she ends up turning that argument against Lockwood of how he uses her at times and how she blindly follows him when really she should be questioning his motives and why he's doing certain things. So it's sad, but she needs to come to that discovery. But again, it's why I really like book 3. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the next book.
It's so good.
Anyways, Lucy also, I think it's the one aspect of her that I really like. She has such empathy for the ghosts and she really wants to help them move on. She wanted to help Annabelle Ward's ghosts move on. She wants to help these ghosts get their bones back. When you know the end and the root of the problem, you know how important this moment is for Lucy to see that the ghosts aren't really the problem here. It's the people that put them in the situation.
Yeah.
Also, we get a really good paragraph about the pull of the bone glass that Lucy has. Ooh.
Yeah. I was counting. This is like the third half glance. She saw it in the beginning of the coffin, just a little like side glance, not even a full glance like George had. She saw it out of the corner of her eye when she was moving towards George before he jumped up, and also felt the pull then. And now she sees another little side glance, and this one is too strong. So she's feeling the pain that won't stop unless she looks in. She needs to see her heart's desires. The mirror will solve every problem that she has. And that must have been how George has felt this entire time. Kind of like an addiction where he needs to get that fix and he needs to stare at the mirror. Every action and every thought is tainted by it.
Do you think Skull saves Lucy in this moment? Because he speaks up.
Yes, he does.
He saves her.
Yeah. He does it in the most sassy way where he calls her stupid to snap her out of it. But yeah, his voice breaking through whatever trance she's in, his voice breaks through and really snaps her out of it in a condescending way. But that's our Skull.
But still, that's our Skull. Man, we're so
proud. Yeah, I
proud.
think that's his one saving grace. That's why she grabbed him at the end.
Because Skull doesn't want to be alone.
He did help.
He doesn't want to be alone. They basically win against Joplin, and then Joplin pulls out a gun on the kids. Oh my gosh.
Of course. What's with all the guns this book?
And then the hero shows up. Lockwood has arrived in the building.
Oh, in the most sassiest manner. I highlighted all of this green. It's just such a polite cough.
I highlighted it all yellow because I was like, yes, Lockwood, let's go.
They have this banter of like, oh, what's happened when I wasn't here? And they fill
Yeah.
him in. Oh, casual. We beat Joplin, broke the bone glass, being held at gunpoint. You didn't really miss anything important. It's just so good.
I like how Lucy's like, wow, he's never looked better. And then automatically Lockwood's like, hey, Lucy. Oh, hi, George. You're here too. He doesn't even say hi to Kipps.
Oh, God. Well, would we expect him to? No.
No, my expectations are low on that front. I will say my sad note is I love that he just wants to be the hero in every situation because he could never be that for his family.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry, I'm going to hit you with that
Wow.
angst. I apologize.
My one question is, he jumped 20 feet onto hard ground. How did he not roll an ankle? Do we think he did the superhero landing?
Yeah.
Like landed on his knees with his fist in the ground? He did a Black Widow hair flip?
Yeah, he probably did. He's a theater kid. Oh my gosh, what if he was in costume and he landed like that
God.
and just superhero pose?
Yeah, I assume he's wearing his coat, so he had to like flip the coat out, you know, the coattails.
God. Oh my god, I would die. What if he was like trying out some web fluid like Spider-Man? He's like, I'm just gonna rappel down here and he just drops.
It immediately breaks.
So they come down there, Lockwood kind of sorts it out, and then Joplin, Bickerstaff's body walks towards him, but Joplin doesn't see it because he can't see Bickerstaff, and then he dies.
Yeah, well, Joplin's an idiot. He literally walks over the body.
He's dumb. Like,
Dummy.
what? What a way to go.
Yeah, what an idiot.
Oh, these poor kids, though, they're so tired afterwards.
Oh, yeah, I do love that in every book. We see them so emotionally and physically exhausted that they just basically collapse at the end.
Yeah. And again, props to the narrator of this audiobook because you can tell in her voice the way that she inflects her words. George's voice here sounds so small. And it's just, again, heartbreaking because he feels so guilty for everything that's gone on. All right, now on to our final chapter.
Chapter 29.
So this is kind of summing up everything afterwards. It's sun up now at 6 a.m. Deepak has arrived. Bobby Vernon, Cat Godwin, Ned Shaw, and George are all with the medic crew. Lockwood's talking to Barnes about what had happened. And Lucy is sitting there with Kipps. And just a side note, that's my favorite scene from the TV show, is that moment with Lucy and Kipps.
I really like some of the small bits of dialogue that we get here. We get a lot of growth of characters. Kipps grows as a character, Lockwood grows as a character, and Lucy grows as a character. We see this conversation, like you said, between Kipps and Lucy on the steps while they're sitting there watching Deepak clean up. And Lucy just says, I want to thank you. You supported me back there. You went after George. Basically, I'm surprised you stuck around. We saw you run from the house earlier. And Kipps gives us this great, heartbreakingly vulnerable insight.
Oh, can I say it?
Yeah, say it.
It's easy to judge me now, but you don't know yet what it's like the day your talent starts to fade. You still sense ghosts, you'll know they're present, but you won't see or hear them properly anymore. You'll get all the terror without being able to do anything about it. Sometimes nerves will simply overwhelm you.
And this is such a callback to what happened with Jacobs, who was Lucy's first supervisor. He was terrified. He used to be this big agent, came back, started his own agency, and then as the years went on, we even talked about it, it's like PTSD. He couldn't handle it anymore. He was so nervous that he'd like strike out at the kids because he thought they were visitors. So it's just so heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, but also I think it adds so much depth to Kipps's character.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see it in book 3 especially, but Kipps likes his job and he wants to do well at it. He wants to make sure all of his team members get out alive. He wants to make sure he's doing the best that he can do, even though he is terrified. You know, he's not giving up yet, even when his talents are first fading. I know if I was in a situation, if my talent started to fade, I'd be like, thank God I'm out. Woo!
Yeah.
Survived. I'm done.
Well, and it's got to be so hard to be such a hotshot and then know I can't help people. I'm not as good as I once was. There's all these new up and coming young kids that are going to replace you. And knowing that for other people's safety, you have to step out of something that you may love. You know, this talent that made you special is no longer there. And it's just got to be so hard to be replaced and know that you're no longer ever going to be able to do what you were once great at. It's especially in this society where like having a talent is how you make your money. It's what makes you special.
If we compare that situation to George will always have talent because his talent is how smart he is and how good he is at asking the right questions and looking for the right research. You know, you compare it to Kipps, who this is his life. This is it. Without it, he doesn't know what to do, which is just really heartbreaking. And a really quick side note for you. There were 6 assailants and
Yeah.
Joplin in the basement, so that's 7 villains for you. You're welcome.
Ooh,
I'm just saying 7. There's
Seven,
so
seven,
many.
seven.
7. I'm so sorry. It just keeps coming up.
Oh, God. And then we see this emotional reveal to Lucy. Immediately, he stops and his face hardens. He kind of clams up emotionally as Lockwood approaches. And Lockwood gives him the lowdown. Yeah, we broke the mirror. We killed the main suspect. This is a common theme, that they kill the villain in every book.
Not boding well for the other books.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well. But basically, the danger's over. And I don't know why Barnes was so upset that they broke the mirror. He was so disappointed. Wouldn't he be glad that the danger is gone and that no one can even access this horrible relic anymore? I just thought that was a little interesting. As invested as Barnes has been, especially in this case, and the dangers associated, wouldn't he be glad that that danger is just gone?
Yeah, I agree.
Barnes awarded Lockwood & Co. the full commission, but Lockwood, in a rare gesture of good faith and being a good leader, split it 70-30 because he worked alongside with Kipps's team, and Kipps helped Lucy and George, and he said, basically, I'll never forget that, so...
And that's why I love him. And the other thing he does is he says, okay, you got to put your name in the advert that you're a Dumbo. And Kipps is like, all right, I'll do it. And he goes, oh, that's enough. You don't have to put it in. Just your word was enough.
That's all I needed. This entire scene is just, I think it's really good. We've seen Lockwood.
What up?
We've seen Lockwood be a bad leader, especially in the last book when he basically decided to force his team into the case, didn't really give them the chance to say no until it was too late. This time, he let them in, he let them decide to work this case, and at the end of the day, he's being the more honorable person, he's taking the higher road. He could make things really annoying for Kipps. He could have given them 0 commission, even though they did some work on the case. He could have made them post in the paper and be ashamed and have to swallow their pride, but he really chose every single middle or high road he could, which is shocking because he's a teenager. And then even later, we get the whole conversation with him and George, where again, showing leadership growth, he could have yelled at George and George would have taken it, but instead he's like, I've been way too hard on you. You've been an excellent contribution to our team. I understand that your actions weren't entirely your own, and I'm sorry.
I do like that he apologizes. However, can we still recognize that George was being really dumb in a lot of some of those moments?
Yeah, George definitely has some apologizing to do as well. He's not completely innocent. He did have a major part in what happened, especially how it went down.
I mean, like, that's the thing is I'm glad Lockwood is apologizing because he's definitely taken it too far with his arguments with George, but I do still want to recognize George, granted he was under the Bone Glasses pole, but he also was not making some smart moves. And then we figure out how George is still alive, even though he allegedly looked at the bone glass.
Yes. Spoil it.
The glass came out of his frames, his glasses. So it's just an empty frame. And he says basically he's blind as a bat. So he was like,
anything.
couldn't see. Oh my God. I just can't with that. It's
He is the ultimate theater
also,
kid.
how does that, so how does that work? Like, I don't know if that's how it works in this world, but okay.
God's basically sunglasses with both the lenses popped out. Just the frame. It's completely useless. Oh, God. And Joplin didn't even notice. So funny.
I just highlighted all of that green because that's just what an ending.
I love that it's a humorous and simple solution. I was really scared when I first read the book that it was going to be this grand reveal of, oh, George is also special, and, you know, throw in some caveat on how he's the only person who's looked at the bone glass and hasn't died. Make it this really convoluted explanation. But no, it's just simple. He couldn't even see it. I love it.
And now we are into the what if question of the week. So the what if question this week is, what if Lockwood had gone down there as well, like with Lucy, to save George? What do you think would have happened?
I think George wouldn't have ended up looking at the bone glass, even though he didn't. I don't think he would have been in that situation. I think either Lockwood would have volunteered himself in typical Lockwood fashion, or he would have gotten out or somehow released Bickerstaff to cause mayhem. I feel like there's a lot of avenues. I don't think he would have allowed it to proceed to the point where George faked dying, if that makes sense.
I think Lockwood would have tried to, like, sacrifice himself at the beginning. He wouldn't have let George look in the mirror. And I also think just in terms of the storyline for all 5 books and Lucy's trajectory of her confidence and where she's going with her journey, I think that it would have inhibited her growth if he had gone down there with her.
Oh, I
because
agree.
we had said in that moment where she's like, well, what would Lockwood do? No, Lucy, you need to be turning to yourself and say, what would Lucy do? Like, you are a badass bitch. Let's go. You know?
Yeah, this is like our first glimpse of Lucy and Skull. Carlisle and Skullco.
Yeah, Skullco.
For, like, how she can do her own thing, which is a huge part of book 4. She has to gain the skills and gain the confidence to do this on her own. And I don't think she would have run at Bickerstaff's ghost with the chain. I think she would have been forced more into a secondary character role, and Lockwood would have been our main character, taking the risks, doing his Lockwood thing.
Also, I do think, though, this is a funny side note, I think there would have been a lot more funny dialogue if Lockwood was down there between Kipps and Lockwood. Just
Kipps and Lockwood would have had a lot.
Oh my
a
goodness.
lot going on.
He would have been like, well, we'll just... Kipps, you go. You sacrifice yourself.
Yeah. I think it also would have changed the trajectory of the relationship we have with Kipps. I don't think he would have split the commission, even if everyone had helped with the Relicman above. All the action was down below, like the real action.
Well, and that's something I liked about Kipps in that moment with George, is we see that, once again, take these kids as kids out of their jobs. They are children, and they're going through something very traumatic, and at the end of the day, they all just want to survive. And Kipps is willing to do that, and the fact that Kipps is willing to, like, basically save Lucy and save George in that moment shows a lot about his character. And now to the favorite moment guessing game.
I think, and I'm probably wrong, I think your favorite moment is the conversation between Kipps and Lucy on the steps.
It is.
Nice.
I said that ahead of time, so...
You know, you said in the TV show, and I just took that as liberty to put it as the book as well.
Well, it's in the TV show and in the book. It's a great moment.
Yeah. Well, there are so many differences between the TV show and the book, especially with this. Kipps still has a little bit of talent in the TV show.
Kipps is a douche in the show.
I know.
Like, we've talked about this before. I imagine the kid from the Polar Express as Kipps, okay? Like the annoying kid with the glasses.
The kid that squeals that girl doesn't have her ticket.
Yes, that's what I imagined Kipps like when I was reading the books. But in the show, he's like the douche. Like,
yeah, he's a whole nother level of douche canoe in the TV show.
Okay, your favorite moment. I actually have to think about this. I feel like it might be when Lucy is having her badass moment spiel about, I'm strong. I can take on Bickerstaff. He's just a fucking ghost.
Yeah, it's that whole page. That's like...
It is? Hey, we both got it right.
Incredible. I just like it. Big badass moment. Love Lucy's confidence. Also, there's like a Scooby-Doo unveiling of he's just a man. He's an ugly man. Oh, I'm sorry. A stupid man.
No, that's just a man.
Yeah. So I just liked it. Yeah.
Enough said.
Enough said. That's it.
All right. Well, that concludes part 6. Well, most of it, part
Sort
6
of,
of Through the Looking Glass, this last part of The Whispering Skull. Next episode, we're going to be covering chapter 30, which is in part 6. And then we'll have an end of book discussion where we do our BBC and we have our domino effect. We'll do our book favorite moment and we'll decide who our bestie is in this book.
Who's our bestie?
But most importantly, we have a couple surprises up our sleeve next episode, so stay tuned. We are very excited. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TwoBestiesRead and our Gmail at, wait for it, twobestiesread@gmail.com. We also have a website if you want to check it out. It's linked in our Twitter and our Instagram. Go see it because it was a fun website. It was fun to put together. And let us know your thoughts to the what if question of the week, what your favorite moment was. Is there any analysis we did that you don't agree with? Do you think it's funny that George just couldn't see the mirror and that's why he was fine? Do you also have a lot of sympathy for Kipps? Did you also cry at George? Are you also gaining a love for school? Are you joining our side? Do you also love the Indiana Jones theme song? Would you also want a villain era song? Do you think that the song Hellfire is actually a really good villain song? Do you like The Hunchback of Notre Dame? Are you going to also applaud Alex in her journey to finding hydrate or dihydrate? Thank you. Do you have any other questions you want to add to my lifelong spiel that keep going?
No, I think you covered them all. Damn.
Oh, do you also think that Anthony Lockwood jumped down that 20-foot drop stopped like a superhero at the bottom? Do you think he would be in a superhero outfit? If so, which one? We want to know. Let the people know.
These are the questions we have.
These are the questions that are most pressing to our hearts. Thank you for listening. And Alex, as always, thank you for being my bestie.
Thanks for being my bestie.
And now we do our outro.
That was really good. We only practiced that. Thanks for listening to TBR.
Be sure to follow us on the socials at Two Besties Read.
Got any suggestions for the other series we should look at? Email us at twobestiesread@gmail.com.
Join us next week as we read